Hello and welcome to the Mindful Dose podcast. You're listening to Triana. In today's episode, I'm just going to talk to you about what eclipses are. I have a very technical blog post on what the eclipses are, and that's something that I would recommend you check out in addition to watching and listening to this episode. You can find that blog post on my Substack, Mindful Dose, along with some tarot scopes and free monthly horoscopes. And in that technical blog post, I go over the astronomy and the history and let you know how you can kind of use that information in modern times. In this episode, I want to talk to you like we're just chatting over some coffee because eclipses, I think, in my personal opinion, are one of the major points of astrology that anyone can use, whether they're a professional astrologer, a practitioner, or just someone who's consuming the information and applying it to their life, which I would say is like a practitioner. But the eclipses are pivot points. They mark a major beginning and major ending in areas of our lives. So that's where learning your astrology chart matters, knowing what sign rules which house. I use the whole sign house system, so that means one sign per house. I'm not opposed to Placidus. I think it can apply in that realm as well, but just to keep it very easy to understand, one sign, one house. When the eclipse is taking place in a certain sign, it's applying to one certain theme in your life. Just to keep the language simple. And at the time that I'm recording this, it's the summer of 2026. It's August 3rd. It's August 3rd at 1:12 p.m. in New Jersey. So we are just about to enter eclipses. I think a week from now, we'll have a solar eclipse in Leo, and then 2 weeks later, we'll have a lunar eclipse in Pisces. I'm really looking forward to that second one, the lunar eclipse in Pisces, because it will take place between my natal sun and natal Saturn in the 12th house. And then just a few days out later, I'll be flying out to Chicago for the United Astrology Conference. It's going to be a big deal for me. I've been looking forward to this for like since December of last year, and I'm just I'm really excited for that type of beginning because the North Node is on the Pisces end. So this feels very pivotal in a forward direction for me personally. And I just want to emphasize how these eclipses work in a chart. So in that article, I talk about the North Node and the South Node, and I break down what those mean astronomically. The North Node, it's like a horseshoe shaped symbol, but it's upside down. So it's kind of like if you were to put a point on it, like a little birthday hat, it's going to point north. And then the South Node, if it was upside down with the birthday hat, it would point down. So you can use that as a directional symbolism to what the meanings are. And these nodes are always opposite. They're always exactly mathematically opposite. So they're positioned on the zodiac wheel in opposition. So if you listened a few minutes ago, the solar eclipse is happening in Leo. So the sun and the moon are very close to the north node that's right now in Leo. The south node is in Aquarius, but because the lunation is happening in Pisces, that eclipse is considered a Pisces eclipse. And I just wanted to get that clarification out. And eclipses are just, again, major life changes. It's a big theme that's prevalent in your everyday life, and that's like the best way that I can describe it for someone who is just consuming astrology. I think that playing a mindful role in your life will add to the benefit of understanding astrology because by being mindful of your life, you are aware of some of the themes that are prominent in your thinking mind, as well as your life experiences. And that will help digest the information of the transits that are happening in the sky to your natal chart. So there's typically a sensationalism on social media about eclipses being rare, and astronomically, they happen every 6 months or so. the rarity comes in where you're able to view them. So sometimes there will be a partial eclipse, meaning that the sun and the moon won't exactly line up visibly in the sky for us to see it with the naked eye, with protection as well, with eye protection. And then there are the rarity of the location where you can actually witness the eclipse. So there can be an eclipse happening totally in view eyesight in Japan, but we're not going to see it here in America. And that's the rarity that I want to clarify. It's not rare in that, oh my God, this weird phenomenon is happening in the cosmos. No, it happens frequently enough that we consider it like a season in the astrology language. Astronomically, the rarity is just where you're able to view it and how much of the eclipse are we able to see with the naked eye. So eclipses are just the lunation, the new moon or the full moon, but intensified because of an alignment between the sun, the moon, and the earth. And there's something about that gravitational alignment of these three celestial bodies that energetically really speak volumes in terms of seeds being planted or things being let go. So major beginnings and major endings, it's just that new moon, full moon theme intensified. It takes about 18 years for the moon's north and south point to reach all 12 zodiac signs. So every 8 or 9 years, the same zodiac signs are activated during an eclipse, but it would be the reversed. So the south node and the north node would be reversed from where it originally started, and then 8 or 9 years later, it will return to where it did start. If you were born with an Aries and Libra north node, south node, in 8 or 9 years, they would return to the same signs but be opposite. So remember, they're always an opposite of each other, but it's just a halfway point. So the north node and south node have only made a halfway point. And then 8 or 9 years later, for a total of 18 years, it will return to where they were when you were born. So when you're 18, you have your nodal return. Then after that, it's when you're 36. So just do increments of 18. And if you wanted to just check in on the themes, then you would go into increments of 8 or 9 to see what were those major themes applying to your life during that time. Okay, so now I want to talk about the nodes. So we talked about the north node wearing the birthday hat, it's pointing up, and the south node wearing the birthday hat, but it's upside down. It's just doing the handstand. So they're part of the same body, if you will. They're part of the same orbit, so they hold the same container, but one is pointing in the north direction, one is pointing in the south direction. They're part of the same experience, and a lot of the descriptions that I've heard about the south node is that it's the past life. But I would adopt the understanding that it's still a part of you. It's just, it's not as important, it's not hands-on. It's considered the tail of the dragon. So it's part of the beast that is just like wandering forward. I forget which astrologer used this imagery, but just imagine Godzilla coming in through a city. And the arms and the front end of Godzilla is the north node. It's the one that's actively a part of the change, and the tail is still part of the change, but it's there in the aftermath. So the south node is just as important as the north node. The emphasis of the major beginning and major endings would be applied beginning to the north node, endings to the south node. And so the north node is future oriented. It's about growth and development in whatever sign it's taking place. The south node is about release, and it's about mastery, and what has kind of run its course. So the turning point with the south node is very similar to the full moon theme of just releasing and letting go. The thing about the eclipses is that you don't have to do much. The universe is doing most of the work. I always say that it's like the universe takes over the wheel for a little bit and really steers us into the direction we're meant to go in through that North Node lens. So sometimes when eclipses come around, the themes are just relating to the North Node and the South Node signs. For example, right now the North Node is in Aquarius, South Node is in Leo. Other times, like this current eclipse that we're going to have very soon, is happening in two different oppositions. So we have the South Node activated for the new moon in Leo. And then the North Node, while it's in Aquarius, the moon is positioned in Pisces. So it is considered a Pisces eclipse at the end of August. So the different themes that we're experiencing will depend on where the actual moon is and the orb that the moon has to the node. The orb meaning like the bubble of space between the moon and the node point would indicate whether it's considered an eclipse or not. So I mentioned previously, like when you would experience your nodal opposition and when you would have your nodal return. You can still track the eclipses in between those years because you have other placements in other signs that might be activated through the eclipse season. So with my example, I have a Mercury retrograde and a Mars placement in Aquarius. So I really expect major themes involving that. And then I have my natal moon in Leo. So I have a big major theme coming up with connections to community through my Mercury and Mars, and then connections to my motherhood and my child, because I have my natal moon placed in the fifth house of children. So I have a lot going on already, and the eclipse season hasn't technically started, but I just wanted to give that very obvious example. You may be going through something as well if you have placements positioned in the zodiac signs that the eclipses are taking place. So pay attention to what your natal chart is. An astrologer can help you map out the themes relating to the eclipse seasons that are coming up in the year or for the next 18 months, because the eclipses will hold space in that opposition, a pair of like Aquarius and Leo or Pisces and Virgo, etc. It will hold that theme for 18 months. So every time eclipses come around for within that 18-month time frame, those themes will come up again. So the purpose is for that theme to slowly have that turnover and that change. Now, I I would just encourage observing the themes in applying the eclipse information in your life. And just, if there's any prediction that's coming forward in your horoscope or in an astrology reading, just take it with a grain of salt and just live your life as you normally would. As I mentioned, I feel like eclipses is just the universe taking over the wheel for a little bit, and you don't have to apply much of the change to those themes in your life. You can just kind of see it happening in real time on its own. That's just the magic behind the eclipses that I have witnessed throughout my years of studying them. In the observation, this is where your mindfulness practice will come into play. You'll notice, for example, I have a Mars in Aquarius. I can expect a lot of intensity. With Mercury there, I can sense that there will be some vocal intensities. Communication might have some active warrior charge to it. And I've already kind of had an experience where I've had to vocalize for my child. And it's putting me in a different place. I usually would not really speak up and out. I kind of like to go with the flow in life and just, you know, adjust where needed. But a situation really required me to speak up. And that was very intense for me, and it took me a couple of days to really process. So I want to add that with eclipse season, it's best to just simplify your everyday routine as much as you possibly can. Don't overload your plate. Just try to keep things simple, and just letting the events of your life unfold as they are. If you're uncertain or you're unsure about something, sit with it. Sit with it until it becomes clearer, and it will become clear because eclipse seasons, I feel like you're in a fog. And it's not a dark fog, it's not like scary, it's just everything's kind of foggy because everything is eclipsed in the moment. Everyone is kind of experiencing that intensity. So once that intensity comes back down to earth and things kind of level out, that fog lifts, and then you're able to really process some of the pleasant and unpleasant experiences through the eclipse. And things happen with time. So one event isn't like the event for 18 years. It's just it's a little stepping stone in the experience. And by the end of the eclipse story within those two zodiac signs, there's a different version of you within that theme of your life that exists, that was shaped primarily through the eclipses, but as well as some of the other transits that are going on in the sky. So, for example, in the time that I'm recording this, we have Pluto with Aquarius. And Pluto signifies intense transformation. With the North Node there, I mean, I think that's just like a big power punch. I think if you thought eclipses couldn't get any more magnified with Pluto present, it's just like, well, let's find out. And again, it's nothing to be afraid of. Life is full of the pleasant and unpleasant experiences, as Yoga Sutra language implies. So it's just a matter of like working with the energy. So I know with that same example personally that I had, um, the speaking up opportunity that I had for my child, it was very intense. Some of the simple things that don't require too much attention will be just inviting really long breaths, long inhales, long exhales, reducing as much stimulation as possible. Because eclipses are already subtly overstimulating, you want to kind of simplify your days and just reduce that stimulation, and just keep your commitments low. If you can, not at all, just because that's stimulation. That's just overwhelming already. So in my lunar talks, I've been getting more into yoga philosophy. And for this episode, I would go with a parigraha, which is one of the components to the yamas, which is just the ethical restraint in the Yoga Sutras, the 8 limbs of yoga. And a parigraha, which means non-attachment, like detaching, what I was talking about earlier. The detachment is really important for your peace of mind. You can't, especially in this particular season of the Leo and Aquarius axis, um, and there's going to be major themes of power struggles. So, learning how to let go will help the process, because we are going to have to face those challenges, but we can lessen the experience through some yoga practices and philosophies. Um, in my loving guidance to help us all experience and find peace in our day, like wherever it is that you can just let go and detach, find that, and really ask yourself, like, what is the purpose? What am I trying to get out of this? Whatever it is that you're doing or looking to do during an eclipse. So, a meditation that I would invite you to explore during eclipse season is a simple body scan or breath awareness. When we are in fight or flight mode, we tend to hold our breath, or it becomes very short and shallow because we want to escape. And we live in a constant stimulating time. There's a lot of there's just a lot of stimulation all around us, whether you live in a metropolitan area or you live in the suburbs or in the country. There is just that internet connection that we're all very much a part of and is part of our lives. So finding that breath awareness or checking with your body and just scanning yourself slowly from head to toe will help you tap out of that overstimulation and just tap back into some of the basic awareness needs, which is just checking in with yourself physically, checking in with yourself through the breath. These are practices that we can do really at any point, and it doesn't have to be a formal practice. So, in this podcast, we do have guided meditations, and I will have one on the body scan that you can definitely mark and favorite for yourself during the eclipse seasons. Okay, so some reflection questions that you can ask yourself. If you haven't yet had your birth chart read for the purpose of understanding what the eclipses are, where the eclipses are happening in your chart, or if you don't know your own chart to do it yourself, you can just ask yourself these questions. Where do I feel like in my life that there are changes developing? What is asking for my attention rather than control? And what future am I quietly growing toward? I think with the eclipses, a part of our intuition begins to speak louder. I think that the moon has a lot to do with our intuitive experiences as well. So I think that answering these journal questions for yourself and then maybe following up with figuring out where the eclipses are happening in your chart and seeing how they match or how closely they are to one another would be a great practice for anyone who is new to astrology. I am doing astrology readings on my website. You can find my scheduling page where you can either book a mini reading or book a long reading. And we can definitely unpack where the eclipses are happening in your chart currently, but we can also explore where your North Node and South Node are so that you can understand your life direction because you capture the nodal emphasis in your chart as well. You hold that energy within you. So there's so much more to the eclipses and the North and the South Node that over time I hope to unpack, but definitely subscribe to the channel so that you are updated when the solar and the lunar eclipse episodes are released and for guided meditations to get you through those eclipse seasons. So with all my love, don't fear the unknown. Embrace the changes that are happening in your life. Be open to learning. Being a student in life is not an easy one, but it can be a fun experience. With Leo being part of the eclipse equation, I want us to remember what it's like to have fun. That's the tail end of the dragon. So while everything is happening, at the end of the day, don't forget your favorite thing to do. All right, guys, with all my love, best of luck this eclipse season. Let me know where it's happening in your chart if you know. If you don't know, reach out to me and I can guide you through the process if you want to book with me or if you want to go check it out on your own. I'm happy to help. Follow me on Instagram at mindful.dose. You can subscribe to my newsletter, mindful-dose.com on my website, and you'll receive monthly horoscopes, monthly information guidance to keep you mindful throughout the process and the seasons of life. All right, guys. See ya. Ciao.